Let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. Let's preview the upcoming season. It was such a surprise last season. Can they go any further? Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and the world is a vampire, which is great. It's fantastic. I love it. You know, for all the reasons. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Thank you also for making Locked On Fantasy Basketball your first listen every day. We are free. We're available on all platforms, so we're ready to talk Detroit Pistons on all platforms. Double bang it. Listen to the Pistons. Listen to me. I guess we're ready to go. Yeah, let's do it. So, to talk about the Detroit Pistons, I am joined right now by the host of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Ku Khahil is here. Ku, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. It's always fun to come on here every offseason.
It's a little bit of a different vibe this offseason to what it was last season. We had a little bit more hope last offseason. We didn't think they'd be as bad as they were, considering they got rid of two of the worst executives/coaches in the entire NBA. Shout out to the Pelicans. We got some actual people who knew what they were doing in the building, and it was better than anybody expected. And now we get into year two. It's easier to come in with no expectations to improve from nowhere, like literally one of the worst seasons we've ever seen. It's very easy to get better from that. Now, the thing is, like, what do you do? Do you hold? Do you get better? Do you regress? Does the league catch up? Do they take you more seriously? And that's, I think, some of the challenges we're going to have this season, or Detroit's going to have this season coming up. So I guess there's a lot of things we can get into, but there are numerous things that I guess plagued the Pistons team in terms of questions, especially from the fantasy community. And I know that inside, I follow a lot of people, including yourself, that follow the Pistons, and we hear these questions all the time. So I'm going to get to this one straight away, because it's about a guy with immense potential. We saw his brother go crazy last season and really develop into an up-and-coming star. Ausar Thompson. He had the blood clot issue to begin last season. Took a while to get going. And I was very adamant on this point all season, is that there was talk from JB Bickerstaff continually, Ausar's dealing with restrictions. That's why he's playing low minutes, which at a point was correct, and for a large point of the season was a gigantic lie, because in the games that Tobias Harris missed, Ausar Thompson would play 32 minutes, and in the games where Tobias Harris was healthy, Ausar Thompson would play 23 minutes. So literally nothing to do with the restriction. It was a play style thing. So my question to you is, we know the restrictions are gone, but are the JB Bickerstaff imposed restrictions on, hey, this guy can't shoot, so I don't know if I want him out there? Are we actually going to see Ausar put into that lineup, playing those 30 minutes? Or are we going to get that similar sort of thing, like, I don't know if there's enough shooting out there, he's not going to play? How are we viewing Ausar in year three?
Yeah, I think Ausar is going to play 30-plus minutes a game this year. There was definitely some inconsistencies with the minutes restriction, like you said, at times. We heard all year, even going into the playoffs, that he was still on a restriction. Like, we didn't know, even game 2, game 3, game 4, like, we didn't know if he was going to be able to play 30 minutes, even if JB wanted him to. It was kind of left a little bit ambiguous. It was hard to understand exactly what the restriction was at what point of the season, whatever. But they tried to keep him below that 30-minute mark. I don't think that's going to be the case this season. His rookie season, he played a ton of minutes. One of the favorite things about him coming out OTE for me was his stamina, how he just went all out at all times and felt like he was never tired. Like you mentioned, he was dropped in the middle of the season last year with no training camp, no off season, no preseason, was just dropped into the middle of the season. It was asked to compete and play for and impact the game for a team that was trying to make the playoffs. And as soon as he started playing, their season turned around. I think, from what I understand, everyone in the building understands how important Ausar Thompson is and how much impact he will have if this team wants to make another jump this coming season. So, yeah, I think Ausar is going to play a lot. I think you brought up the Tobias Harris thing. They let go Simone Fontecchio, and they haven't gotten a backup four. I believe that it's probably because they want to get him, Ausar that is, and Ron Holland more minutes by splitting their minutes at the 3 and then giving Ausar some minutes at the 4 as well. I think that's probably what their plan is. I think Ausar definitely is going to play 30 minutes a game this year.
I think it's going to be really interesting to watch because look, we see what Amen does, and people, obviously, they're identical twins. They go, well, he will do the same thing. But there are different philosophies, there are different coaching things, and obviously he had the setback with the blood clot. But to me, I agree. I think that they will do it, but I'm not 100% there yet, just because of the, we can say confusing messaging. I'll just call it lying about what the coach said about the restrictions and why he wasn't playing him, because he very clearly was only not playing him because he didn't want to play him, not because of the health thing when we were talking about February, March, April. Now, the problem I see here, Ku, is that this team lost shooting. They did get Duncan Robinson in, but Malik Beasley, and for whatever you want to say about Tim Hardaway, he took a million threes, and he created that spacing, which was honestly one of the biggest turnarounds in the team, is having people who would space the floor to enable things to happen. And now you don't have that. You don't have that. Are you going to rely upon Jaden Ivey, who did shoot well in limited sample last season? Is he relying upon him? Or will, when push comes to shove, the shooting become more cramped, and then JB has to lean away from that? And you mentioned the name Ron Holland, which is great. I love Ron Holland. But playing him and Ausar together, I don't know how that works. Like, one of them needs to be able to shoot well at some point, because that's going to create even more problems. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But we'll transition this just into talking about Ron, because he was great in Summer League. I loved Ron Holland in the draft last season. I had him as the number 2 overall prospect. I thought the flashes we saw were interesting last season in a really underwhelming rookie class. But like, how does he find that extra role this season? You mentioned no more Simone Fontecchio, but that's another issue in terms of creating that cramped environment, I guess.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they utilize Ron this year, because I was told, I have the understanding that earlier in the offseason at least, that there were a lot of people that want to see Ron and Ausar play minutes this upcoming season. Now, long term, it seems like their plan is to eventually see Ron and Ausar play together, and that's why you see Ron obviously trying to improve his outside shot. Both him and Ausar are going to have to improve, but Ron is a lot farther along. His shot doesn't nearly look as far behind as Ausar's, and Ron shot the ball well in Summer League. It is Summer League, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think that Ron's going to play a lot more this year. I think they're going to try to play Ron and Ausar some minutes at the 4 position. If they do try to play Ron and Ausar together, it's going to be really interesting. Maybe we start to see them try to use Isaiah Stewart again as a stretch 5. As this past season, they told him to completely stop taking threes. Maybe they try to kind of go back to that a little bit. It's something that we've talked about a lot in the Pistons community, that we were a little bit disappointed that you spent, it felt like 3 years trying to develop that. And he finally gets there, and then you just tell him to stop shooting it. It didn't make much sense. So maybe they try to go back that way, and they started playing those guys with him. But either way, I think as far as the shooting concern, I think when it comes to playing Ron, they went out and got Duncan Robinson. I do believe they're going to be proven wrong or right this season. I can't wait to see it. They are putting a lot of this on Jaden Ivey. All the questions that people will have about, hey, what happened with the shooting with THA? They'll just tell you Jaden Ivey. You say something about the ball handling of Dan Schroeder, they'll tell you Jaden Ivey. They tell you need to make another move for a second guy, they'll tell you Jaden Ivey. Like, that's been the go-to answer, whether you like it or not. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's been made very clear to everyone that all the concerns that you brought up, they'll just tell you Jaden Ivey. And he shot the ball well this past year in the limited sample that he did have. So we'll see if that comes through. But I could definitely see them playing a lot of lineups like Cade, Ivey, Duncan Robinson, Ausar, Duren, or Cade, Ivey, Duncan Robinson, Ron, Duren, or sub Duren out for Stu. Like, I think that's a lot of what we're probably going to see this season. And they like Karis LeVert a lot too. I don't know how much he's really going to help though with the whole shooting thing, but I think they have ways to, if they don't have it as much as last year because of THA and Beasley, like you mentioned, but they believe in Ivey. I think they're expecting him to fill in all those gaps.
We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about that shooting and the players they lost and how they're going to fix that issue in a sec. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by the Game Time app. You might have decided last minute that you want to go to see a ball game with your friends and your family. It's game day. You're thinking, oh, geez, I'm going to get these tickets. And then you go, I want to go. I want to find out where I can find the best tickets and get the best value. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. The easiest way to grab those last minute tickets without the stress. Game Time makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer that you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and lowest price guarantees that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB as well, which makes it easy to browse the app for exciting upcoming Major League Baseball games. In fact, maybe you want to go down to Comerica Park and watch the Detroit Tigers as they push to easily win the division to get themselves into the playoffs. maybe you want to go see that. Whatever it is, the prices go lower on Game Time the closer you get to Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay. We've got more stuff that we're going to talk about regarding this Pistons team, joined by the host of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Ku Khahil, to talk about the Detroit Pistons right now. And that does bring us into that question that I so eloquently teased earlier on. Is it like, what do you do? How do you fix this shooting issue? Because Malik Beasley, I don't think we can bet on him being available to play at any point this season. It does not look good, and we don't know where that investigation is going. I guess there's a chance that everything is just a complete huge misunderstanding and he's cleared and he's available to play. It doesn't seem likely, but I guess there's a possibility of that. He's gone. Tim Hardaway is gone. And they do bring in Duncan Robinson and Caris LeVert. Now, they play the same positions, but Caris LeVert is not a shooter, and Duncan Robinson is. And then, like you said, Jaden Ivey. So let's start with Ivey, because Ivey had a really strong preseason. He cooled off a little to start the season, but then I thought after that, again, obviously the shooting was really good. It improved. I think he shot 40% from 3 during the year, but I still have my concerns with that as him as a volume shooter, as a guy. Like, obviously Malik Beasley's role was, all you're doing, my guy, is shooting threes. Like, you're doing nothing else. Do not do a single other thing. You're going to be one of the highest volume 3-point shooters. We don't care about anything else. But that's Jaden Ivey's going to be like, hey, can you also be the backup point guard? Can you also drive and get free throws for us and put pressure on the rim? And then can you also just be this shooter out there as well? And it's a lot harder to do. And he doesn't have a track record of doing this. Obviously, the broken leg last season ended his year. You've expressed skepticism about relying upon Ivey for this. I'll start this way. Do you think that it is guaranteed, locked in, Ivey is the starter and Robinson comes off the bench?
I do think so, yes.
Do you think that is something that they will consider as an adjustment when things, or if things start to go like awry in the shooting and Cade's getting triple teamed in the paint? Do you think that will be something, or they're like, no, we have to buy into Ivey here and let this play out?
It's a tough answer, because there is definitely an argument, I would say, you're kind of making it yourself. There's definitely an argument to say starting lineup might be better if you take Cade, Duncan, Ausar, Tobias, and Duren and let that be your 5-man. But again, like I said earlier, everything you've heard all offseason is, Jaden Ivey. Any questions you have about a misfit or a lack of something on the team, they've just went to Jaden Ivey. And we've been told, and this is true, despite it being year 4, we just haven't gotten enough of the sample size with Cade and Ivey that maybe the front office would like, especially this front office. Ivey got hurt last year, previous year, the whole Monty Williams, and the people kind of like throw that year out the window. You can argue about whether they should or not, but they kind of do. And then the year before that, Cade goes down for the whole year. So you just haven't had enough of a sample size to really view how it goes. So I believe they're probably going to stick with it no matter what, at least until around January, just to get that kind of sample, just to get, just to see what it is, get answers. It's something I've talked about a lot. I think Trajan is in this position, Trajan Langdon, the president of basketball operations. I don't think he's not in the same territory as like the fans are right now, where it's like, we have to take a next step. You want to see a win, blah, blah, blah. I feel like Trajan's kind of in this position where, like, yeah, if wins continue to get stacked up, it is what it is. But I'm more so wanting answers, and whether it's a good or bad answer, I win either way, because I just want answers to the test. And if the answer to the test is Ivey and Cade do work, great. If its answer is Ivey and Cade don't work, I still win, because I just wanted the answer. So I think we're probably going to get a heavy dose of those two guys, whether it works or not, until at least January or early February.
So I've heard you say the name Jaden Ivey a lot. You're repeating the things that you hear around the team, and they're saying Jaden Ivey, Jaden Ivey, Jaden Ivey, Jaden Ivey. Is it possible, given the earlier part of this show, we talked about the issues that JB seemed to have with playing Ausar Thompson in certain lineups? Could it be Jaden Ivey and Duncan Robinson? Like, that's your Tim Hardaway replacement, is Duncan Robinson is out there, and he's like, maybe he's only playing 24 minutes or 26 minutes or whatever it is, but he's providing some of that spacing, and Ausar is still doing that thing, coming off the bench, mix and matching. He's in closing lineups. But is that a possibility? Like, in terms of those two young guys, like, we know what Cade is. Cade is the franchise, but the next two foundational young players, top 5 picks, and not including Ron Holland, but these other 2 top 5 picks are Ivy and Ausar, that the fan base has been sort of going back and forth on, and what do we want to see and how they're going to do it. Do they lean Ivy over Ausar? Do you think is that more of the vibe that you're getting in terms of internally where the focus is?
I am not. I think it's the exact opposite. I think they are extremely high on Ausar Thompson. I'd be utterly shocked if he didn't start opening night.
That's really interesting. I agree with that. I think they should be more onto the Ausar Thompson side of things, and I liked Ivy as a prospect. I still do like him, but that's an interesting thing to see. Well, so look, they're going to live or die by it, but we're going to be seeing this situation of an Ivy, Cade, Ausar 1, 2, 3, based on what you're thinking it's going to be, and we'll see whether it works or not. I've got a lot of questions about all the fits on that sort of thing. What's more likely then? Is it a benching of someone like Jaden Ivey if it doesn't work, or just a straight-up trade? I
think it depends. I'm interested to see if they come to an extension this offseason. It's still him and Jalen Duren both are up for extension. Ivy, that is, up for extension this offseason. If I had to guess right now, I think Duren is probably more likely to get extended as of right now. And I think I wouldn't be shocked at all if they went into the regular season with both without an extension. So if they go in without an extension, it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with it. Again, I don't know if they end up benching Jaden Ivey even if it goes wrong. Because I think they believe it's going to go well. But then also, 2, again, I think they're just Trajan's just wanting answers. Like, even this offseason when they talked about what's the expectations for next year. You had a first-round playoff series, win a playoff series. And Trajan came out and was like, look, whatever happened last year doesn't change anything for me. I hope everyone still remains patient. And he's been saying that over and over. Like, even at the deadline, when they went out and got Dennis Schroeder, and they were like, oh, this team's playing really well. Like, should he take a swing? He was like, yeah, I'm kind of shocked we're here right now, but I'm still going to be patient. All you've heard from Trajan is just, it doesn't seem like winning is like the top priority for him right now. It's not that he's trying to lose, but he's not making moves he's not going to make moves that prioritize winning over maybe getting developmental answers. So I think that unless they trade somebody, which is not out of the possibility, I think at the deadline, if things are really going that poorly, I think we're probably locked into seeing these guys play a lot of minutes together for the entirety of this year. Again, unless it's really just not going well and you got the answer you need and they do move on from one of these guys.
So when I talked at the start and talked about the expectations going from a 14-win team and where they sit now, like I think that, and I agree with you with all that stuff, and I think it's probably the right approach. Honestly, these guys are all super young. So if you sit at a season and you drop 3 wins down, or you get only 1 win, or you end up you're still in the first round playoff series and lose again, fine. Getting these answers, this is not a situation where, like, I'll use this example, I'll use the Toronto Raptors, where all of your key players are all on their non-rookie contracts. They're all on full, huge extensions, and you don't have the time to figure this out. Like, you're paying them a lot of money for these guys. You got to figure it out. Detroit, they got Cade, obviously, and the decisions on Ivy and Duren come out, but you can wait and you can see how it goes and you can be patient. You don't want to be the team that goes, right, we've got to make a move and bring Omer Ashik in to play next to Anthony Davis because we've got to go all in right now in year 2, and that never works. You got to make the moves that make sense and take us slowly. So I do think that there'll be, and I'm glad that Trajan's got that thought process, because there could be external pressures and even internal pressures that lead you to put the foot down too early. And then that almost invariably leads to problems. We're going to talk about Cade Cunningham when we come back. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Open Phone. Yeah, if you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money that's left on the table. Think about the last time you had something that was urgent. Did you ring someone and then they didn't answer? Oh, it's all right, I'll just wait, and then maybe I'll call them tomorrow. No, you didn't. You wanted to get the answer straight away. So you don't want to miss these calls, and that's where Open Phone comes in, the number 1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app that's on your phone or your computer. It lets you manage your business calls and text from a single app, and the shared inbox feature is a game changer, enabling your team to jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat. And their AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. Open Phone is offering all listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That is openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're going to talk now about the best player on this Pistons team, Cade Cunningham, who I have been incredibly high on all the way through his career. Probably, my expectations for him were elevated above where he was at times, but it all came home to roost last season when Cade took the big step forward and was an all-star. Did he end up making All-NBA? I can't remember. Did he?
Yep. Yeah,
he was awesome, and he was the reason that we pushed the Pistons as high as they did. There's other reasons, but he's the main reason. We talked about how he was in such a terrible environment, about no one is able to shoot, and he's having to do everything, and all of that stuff improved. My question to you, Ku, is, okay, he's here, he's All-NBA, he's All-Star. What's the next step? When we look at the numbers, we look at the production, what does he do now? What's the next elevation level that Cade can bring? Or is it just sort of small tweaks, the supporting cast getting better? But what can Cade now do to get better?
I think for Cade, it's not so much like you look at his numbers, a small improvement's like 28, 11, and 8. Like, I don't think it's box score related, to be honest, though I do think he can improve his box score numbers if you are into that. I think what is the next step for Cade is improving along the margin and sharpening up the tools in his toolbox. For example, his finishing at the rim has to get a lot better. I think if he just improves his efficiency, even if it doesn't translate to him going from 26 points to 30 points, just improving his efficiency is what really will take him to the next level. He had his career high best true shooting this past year. He was much more efficient this past year, drew a little bit more free throws, took a lot better shots. I asked him about this during the season, about how he's kind of cut out a lot of the long twos, turned them into pull-up threes, and looks at the rim. He talked about how he likes having the mid-range in his game, but he understands it's not something he should just be going to every single time. He wants to try to eliminate those long twos, which he did. I think he went from 19% of his shots were long twos 2 seasons ago, and then this past year it was all the way down to 9%. And he turned a lot of those in. He was one of the best floater, short mid-range guys in that kind of hook area, in the paint, non-rim looks. He turned it into a lot of those looks. Just overall, if he becomes a more efficient basketball player, that's when he jumps from – most people I see have him around like top 15-ish, like maybe top 20, whatever. Where if he improves the efficiency, he really jumps up into the top 10 kind of area. I think that's where he really solidifies himself, as he just becomes a better finisher at the rim and more consistent three-point shooter. He had a good shooting season this past year from deep. He took a lot more pull-ups this past year, but in the playoffs, the three-pointer kind of went away. He shot around 17% in the playoffs. It was not good from deep. Trajan Langdon talked about how he believes a lot of it has to do with his conditioning, and he wants the main priority for Cade to be on getting his legs stronger and conditioning better. So that's in the effort to improve that area. But outside of that, I think it's really just efficiency at the rim, from beyond the arc, and then cut down the turnovers. The turnovers are going to come with a high usage player. It's going to happen. You look at the top turnover players in the league, they're all the high usage superstars, but there's a line that you just can't cross. And Cade does cross the line a little bit too much. He does turn it over a bit too much for a guy, even for his own usage. So work on the turnovers, cut that down, become more efficient at the rim, draw a little bit more free throws, I guess, maybe turn those rim looks into free throws and hit some more threes consistently. And I think that's when he really jumps from top 15-ish player to a top 10 player in the league.
You're right. Like, the thing is, it's efficiency, right? Like, we can look at the numbers. He's always been a bad rim finisher. He was in the 19th percentile finishing at the rim last season. His mid-range shooting is good, which has been consistently good in his career. I do get a little concerned sometimes when I see someone come in, like he shot 48% from mid-range. Like, ooh, that could fall. Like, that, there's always some worry there, but he needs to improve those rim numbers. Now, every year he's improved his efficiency all the way through. And I'll look to that sounds like I'm being negative on this and saying, well, I'm a little worried that maybe it doesn't step forward. But last season, he was in the first percentile, meaning 99% of NBA players had their shots assisted more than Cade. He was only 30% of his shots were assisted. The year before, he was in the 4th percentile, 36%. His three-pointers, he was only 57% of his three-point attempts were assisted last season. So he's self-creating 43%. That is a huge number. And I think we can attribute a lot of that, and you can disagree with me on this if you want, like with the absence of Jaden Ivey, because he didn't have somebody else there that was able to help and take some of that pressure off. His numbers, like his rim, like he's finishing at the rim, 2nd percentile of assists. He was doing all that self-driving himself. All of the three-point was self-created, basically, in comparison to the rest of the league. So while I might have some skepticism, what if the mid-range falls off? He should at least get some looks where he doesn't have to do it all off the dribble, which is what basically most of what he's shooting was. Again, like 99% of NBA players were getting fed more assists than he was. So, like, you're in that rarefied air, which is not necessarily a good thing, but that shows how good he was doing all that actually on his own for the most part. And hopefully we can get back to some of those numbers where it was 36% in year 3 for him. Admittedly, like a different sort of scenario and different team, but we get a little bit more of those guys being able to help out.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it had to do, obviously, like you said, with Jaden Ivey going down. I have a few clips I literally just went and grabbed from earlier in the year. He actually came off a couple screens earlier in the year and hit some movement threes with Ivey running the show, and that, like you said, just completely went, like everything was going through Cade. And the Pistons did run a bit of a, I don't want to say complete heliocentric type of offense, but it was all basically Cade. And they had success, obviously. They had their best season in 15 years, and Cade's that good. But like you don't want all of it to just be self-created. Everything he gets is tough, and you don't really want that to be the case. So I think it will improve a little bit with Ivey coming back. The hope is also, Trajan spoke about this, JB's talked about this, even Ausar's talked about this offseason. I've talked with Ausar about this a little bit last year as well. The hope is that Ausar improves his handle to where they give him the ball some as well, let him become a secondary creator and a secondary playmaker. I think that will really help the team as well, and especially Cade, where he can maybe get some corner 3-point looks where he just spots up and gets to take a break every now and then. But yeah, just the efficiency for Cade, and he takes the next jump. That's really all it is with me. The mid-range, I'm pretty confident Cade will maintain. He's been a good mid-range shooter since he came to the league. And this year, it wasn't, like I mentioned, he started taking smarter mid-range looks. It wasn't just long twos. A lot of his shot, I believe he was like 86 percentile or something on shots from 4 to 14 feet. And that's not just like pull-up middies. He's incorporating like a post game where he posts up guys and just goes to a hook shot. He was great on those. He's going to floaters a lot more and try to cut off some of those bad looks at the rim when he's trying to finish over 2 people and turn those into floaters. He's becoming a smarter player as you do when you get older. So I think that's just going to continue to get better, and he should start to elevate into those top 10 conversations.
Yeah, look, all the ingredients are there. It's all possible for him to get there. We just got to see it happen. And again, like has been the theme of this show all the way through, Ku, is that like so much rests on what Jaden Ivey can do. Not only being healthy, but like maintaining the shooting. You're taking the step forward in year 4, which will honestly be year 3 for him in terms of full play. Because if he doesn't, well, yeah, then there's going to be some concerns because like you're relying upon an oft-injured Karis LeVert. You're hoping that an undersized Marcus Sasser is able to step up and do something, and they're not. They're 2 bets that I wouldn't want to be relying upon as guarantees to occur. What is a guarantee, though, Ku, is the fact that this show is over, and you're going to have all of the best Pistons coverage for us all throughout the season over at Locked On Pistons. So if you want to hear more about this Detroit team, which should be a playoff team and is going to be again, if things work out, they could be a team that makes some noise. Or it could be a situation where we're building that foundation for the next few years to come, and it's going to be an exciting season. Ku, thank you again for coming on and talking about the Detroit Pistons with me for this upcoming 25-26 NBA season.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And that is the end of the show. Thank you, Ku, to coming on and talking about the Pistons. Again, there is so much that relies upon Jaden Ivey on this team and on Ausar Thompson, and Ku is very bullish about both of those guys playing big minutes, so take that for what it's worth. I'm going to be very interested to see what JB Bickerstaff does with Ausar, because, again, I think JB did a great job. He also lied out of his ass continually about what he wanted to do with Ausar, and we'll see whether that changes this upcoming season. Guys, you know what you got to do. You got to double bang, you got to hit the thumb, you got to subscribe. We're going to be talking about the Denver Nuggets and the Golden State Warriors coming up in the next couple of team preview shows. The Warriors, one of the more annoying teams to talk about, and hopefully we can get their stuff sorted really soon. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.